You actually stole my, I'm a little emotional. I've given this talk I don't know, hundreds, but dozens or hundreds of times. I've never been emotional. The reason I'm emotional is I can see if I look straight up, I can see the window of the office where we launched Cloud Foundry 15 years ago. And actually the table where we did the first CF push demo in history. So a little emotional 15 years later sitting here, but you shouldn't care about that. Anyway, I'm Dekel. Um, I'm part of the Tanzu team and partner in crime. Where's James? He's not here. Okay, my partner in crime, James. We sat at the same office. I wanted to give him a shout out, but anyway, happy to be here. What I want to talk to you about today is Golden Path. So one of the perks of my job is I get to talk to a lot of customers, whether they are already CF customers and are expanding, or new customers. Talk to a lot of executives about their problems, and I think Purnima said it in the beginning. PaaS is coming back, and it's coming back big time because the simplicity and the outcomes outweigh the technology details. And part of that simplicity is something that the industry calls golden path. This term was actually initiated by Backstage a few years ago. And it's pretty amazing how powerful it is where you move from a world of 400 different ways of doing the same thing into one or two ways. And Cloud Foundry is really at the center of this because if you think about it, when this platform or this technology was designed, there's got to be a simple way of doing things and there's got to be a more consistent way of doing things. And there is a set of questions that we like to ask customers, and I won't bore you. Maybe I will in drinks tonight. I'll tell you some of the anecdotes of the answers I'm getting. But for now, what I'd like you is to think about the answers in your organization or from your experience. The first one is that's the classic working on my laptop question. But how many days between working on my laptop to actually something deployed in production? And we keep going into that, and the reason people are loving CF push, and I'm sure I'm allowed to tell this joke here, if you take CF away from us, we'll hurt you, right? Part of that is because that makes it works on my laptop, I can push it, and it's the same thing as I'm going to production. So this is question number one. Again, answers, maybe at drinks after you sign a waiver, so I won't get in trouble with HR. How many different ways of delivering the same type of application to production? And there is one large customer that we worked with, a large bank, his name will remain with the editors, that they had 406 different ways to deliver just a Spring Boot architecture. 406 different ways. Just think about it. Anyone wants to guess what's their current state after Cloud Foundry? How many different ways they have to CF push? Nice. 4. Which is actually, there's actually 2, and there's 2 exceptions. So there's 2 for 96% of the apps and 2 exceptions. So you can say it's 2 out of 406. That's golden path for you. How long to patch and update? I'm gonna focus this talk also. By the way, I'm gonna skip the demo because you've seen most of it with Corby. So I wanted to give a shout out to Nick's Basement because Nick's Basement saves my life. Because I'm not doing demos on public clouds, only private, and that's the way. Anyway, so I give you the shout out, but no demo, so I'll catch up on time. Mostly you've seen it with Corby. So part of this demo, I wanted to show you kind of the failover and the patching. And this is a big question, and I think Cloud Foundry is, because of the way it's standardized, is also helping in patching. Like we've seen examples because of build packs, and you've heard about that a lot before. The powerful way of patching a build pack across all of these environments. 406 different ways of patching to 2 ways of patching, just as an example. And when you find that you need to patch something, right? This is that's my favorite question because it gets executives completely off the rail. Like I've seen. Okay, I'm telling you one story. There's going to be a lot. I've seen someone almost getting fired because of this question. Like he was sitting next to his boss or next to his boss's boss, actually. And the reality of how far behind they are, especially this was specifically with Spring and Spring libraries, is phenomenal. And the most interesting thing is, even when they knew about it, there was nothing they could do for weeks and weeks. Because this is not the 406, that's a different example, but it was almost as bad. Patching is a manual nightmare. And the reason is if you don't have the flip side of not doing golden path is snowflakes, right? You have tons and tons of snowflakes, and then you need to manually go and patch each one. Okay, so don't try to read this chart. It's blurred for a reason. I actually had to blur it because I did a presentation once with very new campus with not a projector like this. I have to apologize for us, but like an amazing resolution, and someone was actually able to read the text and could get me in trouble because this is the actual deployment chart from an actual customer of Tanzu today. That was the picture before they implement us. Every colored box is a manual step. This is their actual path to production. That's what it takes. Every colored box is a manual step. Someone needs to open a ticket, wait for a response. This is real life. They shared with us this as we started the journey with them. They're a customer now for 12 years or something like that. Pretty amazing. And what's more amazing, this is kind of a little bit out of the context of Golden Path, is the disconnect between developer and operators. At that specific meeting, just a story I have to tell. Again, you can see I'm full with stories, so I'll try to make it brief, because then I'll never get off stage. The developers could not find the room where the operators were sitting with us. Like we were sitting in a room doing our presentation. Half the room is late. Why are you late? We didn't know where the room is. That's the level of disconnect between developers and operators at that specific company. So months to concept to production, 5-to-1 dev to admin ratio, and 3 weeks to fix critical vulnerabilities. So what's the flip side of this picture? This is obviously a nightmare and a manual step. What's Golden Path actually means, and why CF is so perfect to it? So when you think about shifting to a Golden Path mindset, it's basically about simplification. It's mostly about standardization. And because you are simplifying and standardizing, you can automate. And you can do it in a way that brings up secured swim lanes, something that, the whole focus on infrastructure and Kubernetes and a lot of that stuff brought us is there is a complete collapse between what devs are doing, what ops are doing, what security teams are doing. And I think there is I love the talk, by the way, about the broker between CF and Kubernetes. It's fun to see these things. It's also interesting to see how we maintain that relationship, that discipline, as we bridge these communities. And yes, I think those communities absolutely have to coexist. The key word here is coexist. How do we do it with the same principles? And one of those principles is Golden Path. So what is this? It's a setting around a couple of three key artifacts, in my opinion. First of all, design common application architecture. So that 406 patterns identify the repeated one. It's so obvious to say, hey, it's a Spring Boot app. It's a repeated pattern. It's a Node.js app that does a front end, whatever. Those patterns are pretty easy to identify. But that's the first step, identify those repeated patterns. And when you're doing that, aim for the highest abstraction possible. In other words, if you can CF push it, do it first. right? If this pattern is something that the platform can do for you a lot of the heavy lifting, don't try and go under the covers and do all kind of manual steps for no reasons. Because those granular manual steps, by definition, are going to turn into a snowflake, because you're never going to be able to repeat them exactly the same. So for every pattern, identify the highest abstraction possible. And then, once you have this, you can think about it. This is your architectural principles, but your deployment principles is that's where CF comes in. So for every pattern, you simply have a templatized path to prod. What is CF push at the end of the day? Why is it so popular? What's the magic behind it? It templatized together with the build pack and all the plumbing of networking behind it. It templatized the path to production for each architecture. And then you can automate delivery pipelines per patterns, and golden ditches are okay. What I mean by golden ditches is if you think about the CF push experience, or modifying not necessarily modifying a build pack, but adding all kind of hooks using service binding, even if those hooks are manual, at least you are repeating them in the same pattern. One of the stories I like to tell in that argument, in that context, is a large bank in Europe that when we visited them, they actually took us to a basement. It's an old submarine silo, like something insane. And you sit in front of a console like you're in the 1930s in a James Bond movie or something. And that's where you gotta go to authorize something. And they told us, what are you showing us all this golden path stuff? It's irrelevant. Guess what? They are deploying with Tanzu today. Yes, someone still goes down to that basement, clicks a button, but at least it happens once for the entire pattern. So it's not, it's the same thing. There are not 50, 60 different ways of doing this. The same approval, the same manual step. So standardization, in some cases, is more important than full automation. So that's golden ditches. That's fine as long as you templatize them. And the last thing is that, and I think at Tanzu, we believe that there is a lot of value in self-serving both the UX for developers and for operators. The point here is that if it's not self-service, you'll have shadow IT. Okay, so with all the greatness of Cloud Foundry, if you are not able to self-service those APIs to developers, they'll find ways around it, and they will create snowflakes by themselves. So it's not enough to templatize this. You got to expose this as an API. I'm not going to talk a lot about fleet management, but I don't know if anyone is doing a talk about the work we're kind of doing with multi-foundation. So I think if there is a personal, Deshaun is going to talk about it. We had a chat. Yes, Deshaun is now going to talk about it. So there's a lot of passion to what we can do as a community with growing with our customers. Like if you think about the way Cloud Foundry evolved from kind of a single foundation, what are we doing now? What's the next step? How are we evolving this community to support deployments that are different than, for example, one giant foundation, that have different use cases, some of them are smaller edge use cases, some of them are federated. So if there is one ask that I have in this talk, and I'm sure Deshaun is going to talk about this as well, is think about this more as a community of how do we evolve this particular aspect, because I think we can do more. I honestly think we can do a lot more in that. Okay, so since I'm not doing a demo, I'm going to spend, how am I doing on time? I don't remember. Who is watching the clock? Nobody? Okay, I'll go on forever. I can stand here until it's what I love doing, so I'll never get off the stage. So matched with Golden Path is a set of golden APIs. And this should really be understood, standardized, really simple to understand for anyone that is using CF. Build and deploy under CF push, bind, and I think one thing on the bind operation is that we used to talk a lot about CF push as golden path, but it turns out that bind, especially as the ecosystem grow larger and you have so many ways of connecting to different services, bind between an app and a data service, or between an app and a Gen AI model, or between an app and an agentic microservice. By the way, when I talk about agentic, to me it's just like microservices coming back. So yeah, it's great. We put a coat of fun stuff on it, but hey, it's just microservices for crying out loud. So bind becomes a critical problem, almost like CF push, or the bind API becomes critical to golden path, almost like CF push, because there's so many different ways of doing that. And again, a shout out to the broker talk, because I really like the way we standardize on this. The other thing about bind is this is the classic snowflake. One of the customers we were working with, even though they were able to do consistent deployment, they still have 26 different ways just to bind to RDS Postgres. 26 different ways to bind between their apps and RDS, one type of database, not 5, 6, 10, one SQL type database as a service, 26 different ways, from Kubernetes secrets to to service brokers to crossplane and so on. So this becomes a golden path problem as well. And obviously on the scale, there is no way to do a true golden path in day one, and at day 100, think about, oh, rolling upgrades are going to look different. Oh, we're going to figure it out. We're going to find a way to scale this app. No. The magic of CF instances, or CF my app -I 100, that's the concept that we should think about when we are scaling things. And I think where we come into troubles here is where we're scaling data-intensive apps, where we're actually trying to achieve that across different availability targets and so on. Again, somewhere that we can think more as a community. How do we bake in policies and networking? Like when you scale and you stretch across clusters or across availability targets or availability zones, how do you secure your network policies? A little bit out of the context of this talk, but something to think about. Okay. Anyone don't know what CF push is? Okay, fine. The last thing I want to talk about is, we keep talking about this golden path, but what is an application? There's got to be, this is something that I became very passionate with over the last couple of years, because we stopped talking about 12-factor apps as a way that, what is the right design partner to even do this? You cannot say, I want to golden path something, I want to standardize, but hey, any app that was written here in the last 35, 40 years can fit. No, there's got to be an opinions on the apps themselves, and I think we as a community can do much more expressing those opinions. Whether you think 12-factor is the right framework or you have your own opinions, I'm sure each one in the room can be very opinionated on what a right cloud-native architecture should look like. And we gotta go out there. And so if there is another call for action here, is we gotta be more opinionated about the app that we are running on Cloud Foundry. And there's a few examples that I came up with, but you don't have to agree, but hopefully you agree that we need to be more vocal about this. Separate code from configuration. Declare and isolate dependencies. Design for fast startup. This thing about, it takes us, we joke about 12-factor with customers. Give us 1-factor app. Forget 12. I want 1 that you can actually restart it, right? So this is kind of treat logs as event stream. I find this, sometimes I want to rip my hairs out when I talk to customers that are saying, yeah, we agree with all of that. It's awesome. You look at their apps and you write to local disk all of your logs, and it's even worse. It's embedded in the code base and so on. Treat logs as event stream. Design, so these are the classic 12-factor, treat state and data as a service. I really love us to talk more about the power of the service broker and data as a service and why that's so important to actually achieve true cloud native architecture. Low footprint per instance. So again, I'm teeing you up here, Deshaun. Request streams and events with HTTP, and something that we see a lot with Gen AI, the token base, the fact that it's just another app. Why wouldn't Gen AI be just another app in Cloud Foundry? What's the difference? What's the difference between a Gen AI an agentic microservice and an app that you can CF push? It's the same principles that we should talk about. Okay, I'll skip you the Tanzu propaganda, if that's okay. So Tanzu is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we are doing awesome. And I'm done. Oh, wait, one more thing. I cannot, I have to talk about this. The 3 R's. Justin Smith, exactly. A shout out to Justin. So if you're doing Golden Path, the propaganda slide was supposed to be the last one. I don't know how the order changed. Probably when I switched the templates. If you're doing Golden Path right, you can actually start thinking about doing 3 R's. And specifically doing repaving, which is the most amazing thing, that you can actually shut down complete environments proactively and let Bosch recreate it from last known configuration. But how is that ever going to happen where you have 406 different ways of doing the same thing and you're not using even build packs to recreate it? So it's all connected. This is the carrot at the end of the Golden Path stick, if you want to look about, like, that's what you're getting if you're actually doing this right. Cool. And I'm done.